So the scope, it's very much imperative to the success of the proof of concept to make sure that we align the scope at the beginning. We don't deviate from that scope. It can be tempting to say, okay, this works, what about this, what about that, and try and push things a bit more. But if we have a clear and defined scope at the beginning, we're all very clear on what we're trying to achieve. We all understand our current scope of users that we're trying to transform into WVD. We're all understanding of things like current services, current applications, how they currently do their job, how they operate their job, and we also have understandings of what limitations we have. That could be through security limitations, functional limitations, operational limitations, or even things like licensing, so commercial limitations. There are limitations there, but we just need to make sure we have a decent understanding of what they are and how we can kind of bypass them or get over them. Understanding about budgets as well. So, we can get you excited about WVD, we can get you excited about replacing laptops, but if you've got significant investment in a fleet of laptops or desktops, you want to have a return on that. Getting a conversation of WVD past, a finance officer, CFO or chief finance officer, whoever that is, it's going to be a hard time when he's just or she's just spent a few £1,000s on replacing laptops. So making sure that we have a full understanding of anticipated costs going forward, and we can model that with you to understand what a per user cost ultimately could be, depending on certain assumptions that we can make. The types of users and the operating model you've got. How do you want to support your users going forward? You currently operate a on-premise operating model, so people need to be connected to the local area network. I can push patches out, I can give them Active Directory credentials and things like that. We can manage them. But once I've moved to a remote working model, what else do I need up into Azure? Do I need to extend that with AD Connect into Azure AD? How do I start enforcing GPOs? How do I start managing my environment if things are delivered remotely? There's lots and lots of other concerns that we need to make sure that we help define. And setting that at the scope at the beginning is imperative to the success of a POC. Got now. There we go. So, like we said here, this is a full kind of all the questions you should ask yourself for a remote working transformation into WVD. Obviously, we're not here to test all of these. The POC will establish some of these. So these are the types of questions you should be able to ask yourself and should be able to understand yourself. Going through device config and access. What current devices are they using? Okay, they're company provided laptops. Brilliant. Or actually, I've got desktop in the office and I'm having to remote in via a third-party piece of software to access my desktop. That, and how am I doing that over my family PC? Okay, how am I looking after security? How am I looking after governance? How am I making sure that family controlled PC is the right service that can access my corporate shares and things like that? Moving into identity, how do I know that it's me logging in and it's not someone else? How do I enforce controls for identity management? Okay, Active Directory is the central component of that, but how do I extend that into Azure? How do I extend it into WVD? How do I start enforcing policy controls, things like conditional access and multi-factor authentication, so that I do say, okay, Sean, I think this is you. You probably got your phone near you, so I'm going to send you a text to make sure it's you. Can you put that code in? Brilliant. Okay, I've got a little bit more trust that I know that's you, so I'll give you access to certain resources. Every now and then I might challenge you because I'm not entirely sure that it's still you. I just need that confidence that you can confirm it's you along your journey, until I start developing trust more and more. Okay, I understand your IP address, I understand your machine, I understand your patterns. Okay, I'll start not prompting you for secondary authentication. I'll start developing that trust because that's how you normally operate. So incorporating wider modern workplace and Azure tooling into your environment will be massively successful as well. Looking at operating systems, how do you currently deploy Windows 10 services to your users? How do you manage them? How do you deploy lifecycle management and patching tools? How do you deploy software? These are all questions that you need to ask yourself. What software do I need to do my job? So I work in finance, I work in sales, I work in warehousing, whatever that is, I have software that I need to do my job. That could be Sage, that could be Salesforce, whatever that is, I need the tool in place to do my job. Have I got adequate licensing? Can I license this software in a remote manner? Does this work in a multi-tenanted environment? What are my licensing terms for certain components of software? Make sure that I have that in place. How do I deliver that software? Much like the software deployment and lifecycle management, the operating system and management components, how do I look after the lifecycle of software? So a new version of Adobe comes out, or Creative Suite. How does that get pushed to my users so I make sure that they've got the latest version of the software that we're licensed for? Even going into some of the infrastructure services, how do I access shared services, things like file and print, connectivity back to the office where the file server sits? How do I incorporate Office 365 components, even things like Teams, and things, I want video calls, I want voice communication over Teams. Brilliant. How can I do that via WVD? What does that look like for us as an organization? Also backup. How am I able to back up images? I've got OneDrive entitlements maybe. How do I use that? Where do my personal drives go to? When I save a file on my desktop, what does that look like? How do I make sure that gets backed up? Because people work in strange and funny manners. People have all sorts of ways of being productive and saving and looking after files and productivity. We just need to be understanding of that and make sure that that's catered for as well, and even into the app services as well. So having access to line of business applications, so things like finance systems, HR systems. How am I able to access them if I'm working in a remote manner? And underpinning all of these are both operational and security management as well, making sure that if a user logs a ticket and says, look, I can't access X, Y, and Z, well, how can I manage that environment? How can I make sure that they're able to do their job? And security component, how am I making sure that I can apply governance and security policies, and how am I able to manage users' devices if we're working in a remote manner? So these are all things you'll probably want to establish. This isn't an exhaustive list of things, but these are things that you should be looking at, and the POC should align itself to one or a few of these to make sure that you're happy and you can validate what it is you're trying to understand.